Hello and welcome back to Democracy, everybody. Welcome back to Helldivers 2, where today we've got some interesting things to talk about with all of the strange stuff that's been going on with Helldivers 2 as of late. So let's talk about that. First up, we have all of the laser weapons that are currently broken. This includes the sickle, the scythe, and the las dagger. All of these are currently broken in Helldivers 2 ever since they fixed the autocannon. The autocannon was broken. We'll talk about that here in a second. And you can have infinite heat sinks with all of these weapons, which now makes it so you can have infinite ammo with all these weapons. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can either do this on the actual ejection of the magazine, which is a little bit more difficult to time, or you can do it on the reload of the magazine, which is easier to time. So in order to actually do this, the reload is going to be easiest. Empty out your gun entirely, whether that be the sickle or the las dagger, scythe, whatever you'd like, and then when your person goes to reload, swap to your secondary or swap back to your primary, whichever one you're using, until eventually the gun just has ammunition in it. That will allow you to have infinite heat sinks, and then you can just keep on firing this. Every time that you would overheat the gun, it just reloads an infinite heat sink onto your gun. So that's how you can do this. If you want to do this as you're going to overheat the gun, you'll need to get it all the way up to the overheat and then swap to your secondary and swap back, and then this might work. You do have to time this one a lot more carefully, but it's kind of weird that this is broken in two different ways to where these weapons are essentially infinite ammo. So this probably won't last. This is definitely a bug, but you can do it at least currently, and maybe for like a day or two more after this. I imagine it's going to get fixed fairly quickly. This doesn't work for any others as far as I'm aware. It doesn't work for the double-edged sickle because you are the heatsink and you can just keep overheating that. So that one wouldn't matter regardless of how you use it. And this doesn't work for like the laser cannon either. Apparently it's only for the primary and secondaries, not for support weapons. So yeah, very interesting. However, there is a couple other bugs that have been going around with Helldivers, and that's very strange because, like I mentioned, the autocannon was bugged before this, and fixing that seems to have broken the energy weapons, and I'm not entirely certain why. So the autocannon was bugged as well, where you could fire it and you could reload it, but after you reloaded it at any point, it just refused to fire. So at most you had 10 shots with it and then it was useless. But this one broke after they fixed the quasar cannon, because the quasar cannon was also broken. So the quasar cannon was broken in a really strong way where you could just fire out the quasar cannon once, and as soon as you toss it onto your back, then it would just start charging itself. So whenever you went to pull it out, it would be immediately charged. You could fire it instantly. That made the quasar cannon incredibly consistent because it was basically like an EAT or the recoilless rifle, but you just had infinite amounts of it and it was just really, really strong. Now that obviously wasn't intentional either. You're supposed to charge up the quasar cannon to actually shoot it. So that's very strange that so many things have been broken recently in Helldivers 2, and I'm wondering as to why that exactly is. Now, I know coding a game can be very difficult and breaking things does happen, especially for basically live service games. This kind of reminds me a bit of Dead by Daylight when I played that game quite a bit. I still kind of do off and on, but it seemed like with that game, nearly every single patch that came out, there was some sort of break in the game, and sometimes they weren't obvious ones, but perks would just randomly break, abilities would break, certain sounds would just break in the game, and that one was always strange because basically with every update you would get new bugs. It's kind of the same thing with Helldivers. I don't think the bugs are that bad as compared to like Dead by Daylight, because I mean in Dead by Daylight sometimes something would completely break and just be unusable. Sometimes sounds would just break and they wouldn't get fixed for months at a time. I'm not aware of Helldivers having any major problems quite like that, but even so, there is quite a lot of weird things going on with the game. And this kind of brings me to the thoughts of an Operation Health. So for anybody that's unaware of that term, it's a term that was floated around in Rainbow Six, where they did take a whole season to where they just decided to basically fix the game. Pretty much all the quality of life updates, all the bug fixes. As to whether or not that was successful or not in Rainbow Six is fairly subjective, but it did fix quite a few of the major issues that were going on with the game. So I'm wondering if something like that could work for Helldivers with how quickly they tend to update this game, because Arrowhead is pretty good at throwing out pretty consistent updates for Helldivers 2, even though sometimes the warbonds and stuff feel a little bit lacking. I kind of made a video talking about the best worst warbonds and expressed some of my feelings there. And recently my buddy Javarak has made a really good video talking about future updates for Helldivers that could actually play out really well. And one thing that I think could work really well for Helldivers right now is simply make it so there's more stuff in the Superstore. Now they already have 3 sections to the Superstore now, which is a good improvement as opposed to when we didn't have very much there. But potentially taking things from like the premium war bonds and adding it to that. I think that would be a really good idea, because sometimes you may not want to actually be going for like the full premium war bond, especially if it's maybe something like the chemical agents war bond, which I know some people really like, and it does have some cool stuff about it. The gas grenade is really good, and like the syringe gun is super fun, but not everybody wants to just buy the whole war bond just for those 2 things and don't really care about like the armor or the emotes or the other things like the sterilizer and the guard dog's breath. I always want to say dragon's breath. Like those things could definitely be added to the Superstore, as well as some other ones. You could definitely do that with any of the premium war bonds, and that would be pretty awesome. Another update that I think would be really cool that was mentioned in that same video would be another update to just a free war bond, because a free war bond gives more people more opportunities to go for whatever they would really like. It doesn't need to be as big as the regular war bond though, and I don't think it should be as frequently as like the premium war bonds, but just something else there I think could be really cool, even if it was just like purely a cosmetic war bond or something. That would be pretty awesome, especially if they add like color matching things to your armors. I would really like that in Helldivers as well, because there are plenty of times where I have a cool armor, but I don't really have a helmet that goes with it, and like I at least want to match the colors. So at least give me that option, Arrowhead. At least let me like match my helmet to my suit in terms of color scheme so that they kind of fit. So yeah, quick video here. There will be more Helldiver stuff coming up soon, but this was just something I wanted to talk about because it's just really weird that so many things have broken one after another. The Quasar Cannon to the auto cannon to the laser weapons, and we'll see if those get fixed and then see if there's another bug going on. We've had some lesser bugs also in some of the more recent patches. Like I remember the hover grenade, the one that seeks out enemies, was bugged to where it would just show more kills than what you actually got on there. I'm not sure why that was counting as extra kills. I don't know if it was just a visual bug or if it was actually counting as certain enemies on the map dying. I'm still not entirely certain about that. I'd imagine it was just a visual bug. But yeah, we've had some weird bugs going on with Helldivers, and I just kind of wanted to talk about that. So thank you guys so very much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.